Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are going to give everybody just a couple of seconds to get logged in here. I know sometimes it takes a minute or two as you're downloading the latest version of Zoom. Maybe you're getting your notepad ready for some notes you'll be taking. We are recording this session, so just note that you will receive a copy of the recording afterward. But we had an incredible number of registrants for this. So I was really excited. I'm loving the numbers that are popping up here on the screen for the number of participants. Why don't we just quickly spend the next 30 seconds reviewing where people are calling in from. Type into the Q&A section where it is you're calling in from. I'm going to read a couple of those out loud as we do get people logged on here, and then we will get started. All right, so find that Q&A section. And then I'll just read off a handful there. So we have Ken in Virginia. We have Mark in London, Martin in Greenville, Rodney is in China, Natalie in Austin, Josh is in San Diego, Wim is in Belgium, awesome. Valerie's in Denton, Brian is in Sarasota. We have Bay Area, Mexico, Sacramento, another London, New York City, Arkansas, Canada, California, Vancouver, Canada generally, Berlin, Germany, New Buffalo, Virginia, another Germany, Canada, New Orleans, East Coast, Canada, UK, New York City, Spokane, Washington, Arizona, Vegas, Greece. I'm going to just go down the line here. I see a lot of people here from all over, more from Germany. We have Massachusetts, Canada, Florida. All right, so we're going to just jump right in and get started here. I know you probably don't want us to go through the couple hundred that we have here on the screen. So with that being said, I wanted to thank everybody again for joining us for the webinar. This is a really important topic that it is worth us discussing over the next hour here, is really making sure you're taking the proper precautions that you need in order to protect yourself. And that's really your most important asset at the end of the day, is protecting yourself. And what it comes down to is determining what your goals are. What do you want to accomplish out of this webinar? Are you simply looking for security? A lot of folks are looking at this opportunity, specifically this ownership of Teak and residency, from that security perspective, security of having land that's a hard asset, right? There's security in that. Also security in having their plan B, which is there at the bottom of the screen. Plan B, having residency in another country, having that bolt hole should they want to spend time outside of their primary country. In addition to that, diversification across asset classes is critical, and then also diversification across countries. Generally, we've all heard the term, don't put all of your eggs in one basket, and this is very true about the opportunity here, is you're getting the chance to diversify. And then for those of you who are looking at just a unique opportunity to pass down generational wealth, to leave a legacy for future generations, you may be looking at this opportunity from that legacy perspective. And then, of course, freedom and plan B, that goes along the lines of freedom to get out of the stock market. If you're somebody who may be heavily invested there, you're looking for the alternatives, you're looking for that hard asset, something that's going to continue to be in demand over time. So we see that these reasons here on the screen are a handful of the compiled reasons why our owners have decided to become owners in the Teak farms today. We have about over 1,000 owners, and from that we've had over 1,000 people also apply for residency, successfully obtain residency through their ownership of Timberland Farms with us. But I just realized I never went through the title here, so I apologize. But today we're going to be talking about protecting your most important asset and achieving true freedom through ownership of Teak farmland. So as we jump here to that following slide, you'll see how that aligns nicely with what it is we're going to discuss. But these reasons here, like I mentioned, are reasons why other folks, over 1,000 folks, have decided to become owners with us today, and why many of you, I think, are on the line to accomplish one of the 5, if not multiple of those reasons that you see. So my name is Rachel Jensen. I'm the Vice President of Business Development, and I've been with the organization since 2012. It was in 2013 where we decided to open up the opportunity for individuals to get part of, or to own part of, our Teak farmlands, to pair it up with residency. In 2013, the then President Martinelli, opened up this new decree called the Friendly Nations Visa. And one way that people were able to get the decree was land ownership valued at $10,000 or more. In 2012, 2013, we already had a teak farm that was growing, and this was really a group of private investors who decided to own teak for themselves, for their kids, for their grandkids. And what they decided to do was offer up to 75% of their farm to be individually surveyed into smaller parcels to allow for folks to apply for their permanent residency in Panama. So that was really our foray into offering this for private ownership. Although our initial investors had initially been part of the farm for a while, we were able to open the opportunity to folks who are looking at just generational wealth stewardship overall, and then also that plan B, that residency perspective. So personally, I have my residency, my green card in Panama. I did it through this program. I would say I'm more of a digital nomad. I spend a lot of my time in Belize, but also throughout Latin America generally. I think all of the countries are really quite unique and offer something different, but I am indeed a resident of Panama. I think it's a great country, a great place to be, and just a great plan B because the residency requirements are so minimal. We are going to talk about the residency later on in the presentation, but just wanted to give you that intro. And with me today, I also have Ivan. Ivan is our sales and marketing manager. Ivan, why don't you give us a little bit more about you?
Sure thing, Rachel, and thanks so much for having me. Thank you so much to everyone who's here with us today. Very excited to be exploring this topic with everybody. Normally, I am on the back end of these webinars, answering a lot of the questions that everyone is fielding through. Today, I'm going to be talking to you guys a little bit more about the opportunities that are available for ownership, the residency programs, as Rachel mentioned. And I'm excited because as a Teak owner myself, the reason that I invested in a Panama parcel was for just the investment portion of it. Unfortunately, my home country doesn't fall into the Friendly Nations visa regime, so I'm not able to go through with the residency portion. But it was still a very, very savvy investment for me. In my opinion, I found it to be a very savvy option for me. And I know a lot of you would agree with that as well. I've spoken to several different owners who are looking at it for a multitude of different reasons. And I'm excited to talk to everybody about that today. So thank you so much, Rachel.
Awesome. Thank you. And also with us, we have Betsy Rosenland. Betsy is probably a face or a name you've seen before. She's been with us for what, 6 years now, Betsy? I won't steal your, I won't steal your thunder. Tell us a little bit more about you and what you do with our organization.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, this evening, this morning, whatever time it is where you're listening in from. Like Rachel said, my name is Betsy Rosenland. I've been with the organization for just about 6 years at this point. Originally from California, moved down to Belize about 6 years ago. Last year I started my residency in Panama through this program, and heading down next week to finish up my residency after a delay from COVID. But I am a Teak owner myself, so this is definitely something that I personally believe in for myself and future generations, and look forward to chatting with you all more.
Awesome. All right. So without further ado, let us just jump in. As you all have seen in the email that we sent out, there are big changes coming to the Friendly Nations visa. This is one of the best residency programs in the world, and it is changing significantly. It's not going away, but the requirements are changing. So right now, one of the ways that you are able to obtain your residency through this Friendly Nations visa is through land ownership valued at $10,000 or more. Come August, that is changing to $200,000. So what that means is there's going to be a significant increase if you don't apply for your residency prior to this change coming up in August. We've talked to our attorney. She says as long as you're able to get there to Panama before August 5th, there's a few requirements, a few documents you'll need to bring with you. Then you'll be grandfathered in, and you won't have to worry about the changes. You won't have to up your investments. You won't need to do anything along those lines. You will still be able to be grandfathered into the program as it currently is. So I see someone there was asking about going to going to Panama in person. You do indeed need to go to Panama. We're going to talk more about the specific process, probably about 15, 20 minutes into the presentation here. So do stay tuned with us as we bring that up. So we have multiple farms throughout the region. And what I am familiar with is that we have owners, some who are doing it for residency, others who are doing it for that generational wealth stewardship aspect. Well, of course, I think people like the fact that there is potential profit associated with it. So how it works is you own a Teak farm parcel. You receive title to your teak farmland. From there, as long as you meet the requirements in Panama that you're investing $10,000 or more, then you're able to apply for your residency. So we have different aged teak. We have 15 aged teak and also newborn teak, so 0-year-old. And for those of you who've heard us talk about this previously, you may be aware of the fact that if you are looking for the newborn, you do need to have 2 parcels to qualify for residency. If you're looking for the 15-year-old parcel, all you need is 1. We have also seen those folks who like to take advantage of the different age teak and also have 1 of each. Then that way you get laddered payouts throughout. Now write this down. If teak is new, teak is a hardwood. Betsy's going to talk to you all about it, and I'm going to talk to you all about the great aspects of teak and why it's such a great investment. But teak is a long-term hold. It's a 25-year harvest cycle. Teak is a hardwood. It's a luxury hardwood. And in order for teak to grow properly, have the right value, it takes 25 years for that tree to grow properly. So when I'm showing you the 15-year-old option here, do note that that's only 10 years away from harvest. The newborn, I think you can do the math, is 25 years away from harvest. So we do have thinnings that happen periodically, age 12, 18, 20. 12, 18, 20 is when you start to see profits at those years. And then of course, the big harvest at age 25. Before we jump to the next slide, I want to make a note that at the bottom part of the screen here, I think it's covered a little bit, but you'll see webinar at ecidevelopment.com. There it is, webinar at ecidevelopment.com. As you have any questions, maybe about the specific resources that we're mentioning, if you would like any of the documents that we mentioned, reach out to us to this email address here. We'll be in touch with you and make sure you have that information. But that's the best way for you to get in touch with us throughout the presentation here. And then in addition, for those who are looking for more diversification, maybe geographical diversification, you don't want to invest too heavily in one country, or maybe you're looking to be a collector of residencies. I know some people who are doing that as well. You may want to consider the options in Nicaragua at our Grand Pacifica project. Here we have newborn teak. We also have 1-year-old teak. And again, that's simple math. If it is a 25-year-old harvest cycle, that means 24 years until this baby teak farm matures and the point that we're harvesting. And then we replant and we do it again. And we'll talk to you about what that looks like. But let's jump into the reasons why folks are deciding to own timber. And Betsy, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the first reason here?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the main reasons that people are purchasing and owning teak is to give back to Mother Nature. As we know, the environment is very important for us as a population, and forests are being destroyed at an alarming rate. It's estimated that about 85 acres are destroyed every minute. That's so we had a slide in here that said how many football fields it was, and it was in the double digits. So you can imagine that it's quite a bit. And so we're trying to do our part here by replanting trees. And after every harvest, we are required to replant because it is a certified reforested property, which means that it will never become condominiums. You will never be able to build a house there. We will always be replanting it as a way to give back to Mother Nature. And because of that, there are several incentives that we're able to take advantage of in Panama, including no tax, property tax, and no income tax in Panama. So giving back to Mother Nature definitely does have its benefits.
Sure does. And the second reason here why we're seeing folks are owning timber is because there really is a demand for it. And generally across the board with timber, the supply is down. We're seeing that even truer with teak. For those of you who are in the home improvement industry, or maybe over COVID, you were working on a project, you may have seen that lumber prices have skyrocketed. And we are continuing to see that with teak as well, just because there is such a long period, that 25-year period for it to harvest. So there's a low supply, but a huge demand. And here you'll see that teak is being harvested at a rate of 8 to 12 times faster than it is being replanted. It's basic economics when you're looking at investing in something to know what the demand looks like. What does the supply look like? And here we see that there's a tremendous demand for it, but the teak just isn't growing quick enough. In addition to that, as the population increases, the demand for global fine hardwood continues to increase as well. That's probably not a surprise. As the population increases, there's a demand for fine hardwood increasing along the same lines. Now, when you are owning something that you're going to be selling in the marketplace, it's important to understand who these buyers are going to be. And here's a chart that by the World Economic Forum that shows the countries that are projected to be the most populous by 2100. And it's probably not a surprise to you that India and China are at the top of the list. Coincidentally, India and China are also the two biggest consumers of teak. There are multiple reasons for this, but one of the biggest is that ownership of teak product is seen as a sign of wealth. Teak products are expensive. Teak products have a lot of durability. You're going to see some examples of some teak products in a little bit, but there's a really long lifespan to teak products. And so as a result, it tends to be more expensive because it lasts for a very long time. Now, in the countries that we work in, we've been working on developing a market to sell there in country. But if we need to default to a plan B, we do know that we're always able to go to the Indian and Chinese markets. And then we have seen that plantation teak values have surged, and this probably isn't a surprise when you think about it. Teak that's growing naturally in the forest tends to have a lot of wise branches that are all over the place. They're really growing just naturally. When teak is growing in a farm, in a plantation, it's growing with the intent to harvest it. So that means it's well taken care of. There are thinnings, there are harvests that are happening to make sure they're cleanings to make sure that the teak is growing straight. So plantation teak has increased every year, about 5.5% per year since 1972. And again, no surprise because it's grown with the intent of harvesting. In addition to that, there were significant teak exportation bans in Southeast Asia. These are the 4 countries where teak grows naturally: India, Laos, Indonesia, and Myanmar. And they did place bans on logging the teak from the forests. And that was as a result of the severe overlogging that has happened over the years. All right, so the third reason why people are owning timber is because it has provided above average returns, and then it does tend to be safer than other markets. And for those of you who are looking to just diversify, you want to put your money somewhere, forget about it, let it grow, let it do its thing, then timber may be the right opportunity for you. So here we're showing how timberland investors have outperformed folks who've invested in the stock market. This is over a 30, 40-year period. You see timber here in the black, the S&P, so the stock market, and then inflation below there at the bottom. And you've seen that timber just continues to outperform the stock market. I like the last part here, without the S&P's frightening volatility. Here's another example of a $10,000 investment in timber in 1971. And then it grew to about $1.5 million. And this is over a good 30, 40-year period. And the reason that I like to highlight the timeline there is because teak is a long-term hold. As we talked about, it's a 25-year harvest cycle. So if you're somebody who perhaps is invested in the rental markets, you have real estate, long-term rentals, vacation rentals, you're used to a more regular income coming in every week, every month, whatever your rental may be set up as. Now, when it comes to timber, you're planting a seed, literally letting it grow over the years. Then from there, you have the thinnings, you have the harvest, but it doesn't come every month. It doesn't come every week. It comes periodically. So when you look at this ownership opportunity, you have to think about this from the long term. I know it's very difficult to think in terms of 2.5 decades. Maybe that's why the 15-year-old farm would be better for you. But if you're somebody who has kids, who has grandkids, wouldn't it be really nice to set them up with some sort of legacy investment where it just passes down from one generation to the next? They can hold on to it. When the big harvests come, they can pay those big bills that they have. College, I don't even know what cost of college are going to be in the next upcoming years. Maybe they're getting married or buying a house, able to take the profits that they've earned from the generational wealth that's been passed down to them by you. And I think that's just a really unique opportunity right now that's getting harder and harder to find. Dr. Steve Sugarroot, he's an economist, and he says trees grow through recessions, they grow through wars, they grow through stock and real estate crashes, they grow through everything. They give you built-in investment growth that isn't guaranteed with a stock. And I can tell you from 2008 to 2012, the trees continued to grow. And I can tell you from 2020 to 2021, during this whole craziness worldwide, the trees continued to grow. And one of my favorite parts about timber and teak more specifically is that it doesn't expire. And I know there have been some folks out there who've looked at agricultural products for an investment, whether it's fruits or vegetables or something like that. And if this was the year, if last year was the year that we had to harvest the fruits, we would have just lost an entire season of crops. What's really neat about teak is it doesn't expire. As it grows, Every year it grows, it's literally growing in size. So it's literally growing in value because you have more board feet at the end of the day to grow. So that's one of my favorite parts about it. And I think that many of you would appreciate that as well. And for a long time, timber ownership has really been reserved for the ultra wealthy, you know, the top 1%, the people who have the resources to invest in millions of acres of land. And this isn't some new model that our founders came up with. They didn't say, let's just invest in large tracts of land and put teak and see how it does. You know, there's been a proven history in this market before, and timber is one of those asset classes that the larger families have in their portfolio. The family offices incorporate this. This is how they're passing wealth down from generation to generation. But the sad part is it's just been hard for the average investor to get in on a market like this because we don't necessarily have those sort of resources. I think it's quite interesting that a lot of endowment funds, college endowment funds, are invested in timber. One of the examples is Harvard Endowment Fund. 10% of its assets were invested in timber. For anybody who wants to get a full list of folks that have invested in the timber market, reach out to us, webinar@ecidevelopment.com, and request the Teak resource guide. You can just put resource guide in the subject line. We'll know what to send you, but you can see a whole list of everybody that's invested. Here's some other Forbes 400 owners, the Irving family, Pingrees, Ayers, Allen Ford. You know, when you look at the numbers there, they're investing hundreds of millions into the timber market. So there's significant money that's being put into timber because it's been proven over years. Like I said, this isn't something that just popped up. This is something that's been proven and studied for generations. And then what we have the ability to do and what we started offering in 2013 was subdividing the land that we already had into smaller parcels and made it eligible for the average investor, for the person down the street, the Smiths down the street, the Joneses down the street, folks that wanted to get in on the timber industry, but didn't necessarily have the hundreds of millions of dollars to put towards one farm. So we're really excited. We love our community. It's a really neat group of folks who are just so internationally minded and really thinking about themselves, their future, their kids, and looking at ways to protect their most important asset. All righty, so Ivan, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the timber industry here and why it is so valuable, timber teak specifically?
Sure, Rachel. And this is something that I definitely did my own research on. Like I mentioned, when I was looking at and investing in Teak, I realized that I wouldn't be able to go through it from the residency standpoint. So I looked at it from sort of the ROI standpoint of things, you know, the historical data that has been, you know, aggregated about it. And one thing that you will find if you do your due diligence as well is that Teak is primarily used for luxury furnishings, luxury, just luxury in general. And you can see here the reasons for that. It's exceptionally hard, durable, and has this bit of an oily finish to it that just makes it look so nice. That, as you can see here from this picture, after 3 years, the trees themselves are resistant to a lot of those usual things that you would be worried about for any agro investment. So insects, termites, fungus, rot, and even fire. And that those properties continue on even afterwards, even once it's been harvested and you know you now have furniture. Those qualities are still existing within the teak itself. As I mentioned, it's used for fine finishes and outdoor furniture. Because of that durability, you can have it outside, and even in climates like here in Belize, climates like in the tropics, I can definitely tell you that a lot of the furniture that I've seen some people that have brought down, probably from the States or other countries, it doesn't particularly last them very long because of the elements of nature here. But you won't have that problem with teak, and that's why it's been used for decades even. I'm going to try to gain control of your screen here, Rachel, and see. All righty, perfect. All right, and so you can see here an example here. This is Chris Craft. For those of you who love boats, you'll be familiar with that brand. And you can see here a Corsair 28 model speedboat. These are luxury speedboats that are created. And I did a little Google search just now, and I saw that used one, not even the new one from manufacturers, a used boat like this one, exactly here, that has these teak finishes, is going to cost you somewhere in the $70,000 to $80,000 range for a boat like this one. And again, that has a lot to do with the components that go into the boat itself, but you can see here that the teak aspects to it definitely give it not just a more luxurious look, but it definitely adds that value to it as well. Here are some other examples that we'd like to share with everybody. Of course, not everyone's going to be going out to buy, a luxury speedboat, but you do have simple materials like this one here. So here's an Adirondack chair that was on Wayfair for just under $800, just for some outdoor furniture here. A Teak outdoor furniture is going to cost you somewhere around $800. Again, proving that the value of the teak is not just found through the investment itself. After it's been harvested, this hardwood is definitely widely used and has a high value. You have another example here of a teak shower mat going for just under $250. And then a nice decorative mule. We got a correction there from some of our viewers in previous webinars that it's not a horse, as you can see from the errors there. It is a mule, but you can see there at that beautiful price of just under $3,000 for this decorative piece here. Again, and one thing I do want to point out is you heard Rachel talk about when teak trees grow in the wild, they'll be a little misshapen. They'll have lots of Ys in the branches and what have you. And what you're seeing here in this particular picture, notice how the trees, the branches here, they're not very straight. They have some oblong shapes there. That is because it was harvested from your thinnings. And we'll hear a little bit more about that later on in the presentation. But what thinnings are is that as the trees are growing, as your trees are expanding in value, the trees do go through a thinning process where the smaller trees would be removed. Little branches from the trees that just aren't growing properly would be removed. And you still receive proceeds from those thinnings. And that's what you're seeing here. As you can see, even those small misshapen branches or what have you still have value to the tune of around $3,000 for a decorative piece like this one here. And of course, since we are, ECI Development does work a lot in the real estate space, we do like to mention about comparable real estate developments that are using components like this one. And so for those of you who have shopped in the New York market, you'll know that the prices are very, very high. But even more so, again, you'll see here a Tribeca, a loft that is for $45 million. And you can see there's teak finishes, the hardwood, the bed itself, and some of the furnishings there are made of teak. Again, you're only going to see this hardwood, this material on the very finest of luxury finishes just all around the world. Again, proving that it has just intrinsic value in and of itself, but just afterwards, just amazing, amazing long-term value, both for you as the owner and the consumer thereafter. And then Betsy's going to give us a few examples here, some fun stories about some other teak products and materials here. Betsy, why don't you give us some details about these gates here?
Yeah, thank you, Ivan. So Rachel and I were at a conference actually in Panama a couple years ago, and a guy came up to our table and he said, I work with a lot of teak, and he's a custom gate maker. He said his gates start at around $65,000, and teak is definitely one of his preferred woods to use for these because of those remarkable qualities that Ivan talked about. It can withstand the elements. If you maintain it, it maintains that beautiful golden color, but it does also gray naturally into a really beautiful color there. And one of these gates, I believe it's the one in the top right hand corner, is one that this fellow did for the actress Anne Hathaway. So even the celebrities are getting in on teak now. And then if we go to the next slide, there we go. Again, you'll see outdoor furniture is a very common use for teak wood. And fun story, this photo here in the bottom left-hand corner, that was my COVID project. Was back in the States for a few months, staying at my mom's house, and she had these teak chairs that had been sitting out on her back patio. They were covered in moss and dirt. And one day when we had nothing else to do because we couldn't go anywhere, we decided to break out the power washer. And, within under an hour, we had turned them from a dusty gray chair to a really beautiful golden color, put some teak oil on it, and they look absolutely brand new. So, as long as you're maintaining teak products, they will last for generations. So definitely one of those beautiful qualities that we love about teak. Next slide. Again, going back to teak lasting for generations, this chaise lounge chair was pulled out of the ocean. It was from the Titanic. Again, all that needs is a little TLC, little spiffing up, little teak oil, and it looks absolutely brand new. So what this, again, goes to show that teak isn't something that we just came up with or we just discovered. People have been using it for decades, if not centuries. It can withstand the elements, and that's why people keep using it. Next slide. So what do you need to grow teak? It does require a very specific climate and soil. We have found these particular climates both in Panama and Nicaragua, which is why we chose those locations for growing teak. So going into Panama teak.
All righty, perfect. Thank you. Sorry, I'm talking on mute. You think after everyone using Zoom for as long as we have over the pandemic, we'd know how to use it, but sorry about that, guys. All right, so yes, Betsy was exactly right when she mentioned that in order for teak to grow properly, it does need to be in the right elements. We've looked in Southeast Asia, we've looked in Central America, and really have chosen the specific areas that we're in because we've done the soil samples, we've checked the agronomists, and know that the teak will grow well in the areas that we're located in. So for those of you who are familiar with Panama, we're located east of the city in an area. There's a Tortilla and the Darien province over here. We have multiple farms in this area. If you've been to Panama, I can't really imagine that you've been out here to the east side of the country. There's not too much going on out here except for agricultural land and farms, but it has the right soil, it has the right climate, and so as a result, teak grows quite well there. Our first farm was planted in 1999, so it's 22 years old at this point. We had the saplings, as you can see there on the left side of the screen. We planted about 43,000. In 2000, we start to see the seedlings sprout. 2007, here are some images from the dry season. That is part of the process for the teak to grow properly. 2013, when that Friendly Nations visa came out, we started the farm visits. And this is the land where we surveyed 75% of the farm. The original investors held on to 25%, but we said we'll survey 75%, offer it into smaller parcels that correlate with the Friendly Nations visa. So people can own a land, they can get some profit from their land, but at the end of the day, they can also apply for residency. So we continued with the farm visits there, 2018. I think this is probably one of the most diverse groups we had, even though it was one of our smaller groups. We just had a lot of diversity from the countries that were being represented. We had some Africans in the group. We had Asians, Europeans, people from North America. So it really was a neat group. And you can also see the age variation too of the group members who came down. And for me, that's what, I really find unique about Teak, is that it's not just young people who are investing or older people. There's a really good mix. Our youngest investor was 21 at the time he invested. Our oldest was 93. 21-year-old was doing it for the generational wealth for himself and then for his future offspring. He wasn't married, but thinking in the long run, he'll see 2-3 harvests. Then our oldest investor, he ended up owning the teak farmland and gifted it to his great-grandchildren, I don't remember, but he ended up gifting it to them and just offering them something different. And I thought that was a pretty unique concept too. 2020, we had another farm visit that came out. And so just to look at this for a moment, so we are going to be doing another farm visit later on this year. We'll certainly keep you all posted. If you do want to begin with residency, I would recommend don't wait for us to schedule another tour. Come down as soon as possible so that you're able to get started there. All right, Ivan, why don't you quickly recap for us the opportunities for profit?
Sure, Rachel. And so as you can see here, Rachel already gave us a brief overview about this, and I'll just go over some of the same numbers here. So the opportunities start with the 0-year newborn teak parcels that we have. Those start at just around $6,880. And you can see there that within 25 years at the harvest period, you would be receiving a payout of approximately $94,000. The other opportunity here that you're seeing is the 15-year-old teak parcel, and that one is at 16,880 with a payout of just over 92,000. Now, I did see a question about whether or not these are fixed amounts, and of course, nothing is guaranteed. But these are forecasted figures that we've done through a lot of research, and they're actually a bit on the conservative side for our estimates. We do want to make sure that you are aware of any sort of fluctuations, but as Rachel mentioned, these trees are just growing and growing and growing. The market has shown no indication of stopping on that upwards growth. So we feel very confident with these numbers, but you can take a deeper dive in our business plan, and you can see exactly how we arrived at these numbers if you'd like to get some more information regarding that. And now another thing I do want to highlight about these two different opportunities, exactly what Rachel mentioned about the age ranges between different owners and your reasons for investing. Again, this is another thing that we like to ask everybody is why are you looking to own Teak? Is this from an investment standpoint, residency, whatever the case may be? And so if you're looking at this from the generational wealth standpoint, you are looking to leave something behind for your kids, your nieces, your nephews, your grandkids further down the line. The 0-year parcel is an excellent place to start. But if you are looking at something that will provide you a return a little bit sooner, you probably can't wait the 25 years, then you have that 15-year parcel that harvests within 10 years. And then you also, of course, have the option of laddering your payments, as Rachel mentioned. You can own both parcels and then just consistently be receiving returns every 10 and 15 years and as the harvest cycles continue there. And let me see here. And so how do you benefit? Like I mentioned, so you own the land and the trees. I think I saw another question coming up about if this is shared, if this is a security. No, this is complete full titled ownership. You own the land, you own the trees, but do remember it is certified reforested property. So you're not able to just decide that you want to build a house on the land. You do need to commit to that replanting process, and you do need to commit to ensuring that the teak trees are still there. The benefit that I mentioned is that you can ladder your payments as well. So you can consistently be receiving those payouts at 10, 15 years. And then, of course, you have a professional management team. And that's another very common question that we receive is how do we ensure that the trees are growing the way they're supposed to, how they're being taken care of. And we actually work with Geo Forestal, which is the management company on site. Over there, you're seeing Jacobo. He is the contact person who handles all of the management on site. They make sure that the trees are growing beautifully, healthy, that the farm is well taken care of. And we've worked with them for several years since the onset of this project, as mentioned. And so they are leaders in that space in the region, and they've actually been able to outsource their services, offer training and things like that. And so we're very confident, again, in the management team that is on site, again, making sure that your investment and your teak trees are being looked after 100% of the time there. All right, and Betsy, why don't you give us a little bit more information about what the process is going to look like for everybody who is doing this for a residency to obtain that second residency there?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we've kind of briefly alluded to, there are some big changes coming to the Friendly Nations visa. Stay there. So currently the process does require you to go down to Panama. I know I saw some questions here that asked if you do have to go to Panama. You are required to go down to Panama in order to start the process. That's sort of a non-negotiable, got to be there in person. Panama is one of those countries that does a lot of KYC, know your client, especially for banking purposes. So with the teak ownership, you do qualify for that residency. Again, that's one parcel of the 15-year-old teak or 2+ parcels of the newborn teak. You can add residency for yourself for 4,680, and you can add your dependents. That can be your spouse and children up to age 18 or up to age 25 if they are enrolled in university. And this is really a great way to protect the most valuable asset, which is yourself and your family. Oh, maybe? Nope. Oh, okay. So some of the benefits of the Friendly Nations visa, it does allow you to live in Panama full-time. You're not required to. It is as it currently stands, it is a permanent visa. There's no need to reapply after a certain point. The only thing you do need to do is come down to Panama one day every 6 years, get your passport stamped and explore Panama. You're able to work in the country if that's something that's of interest to you, and it can lead to citizenship after maintaining your residency for at least 5 years. That citizenship process is an entirely separate process, different requirements, and can take several years. So, definitely it's something you can put on the back burner for now, but if it is a consideration for you, do know that it is an option. Like we said, major changes coming in August. So if you are interested in getting started on this now before the minimum investment goes up to $200,000, you will want to get down to Panama prior to August 5th. You do need to spend about 10 to 12 business days in the country. It does take a few days to get the bank account set up and funded. And then because there is such an influx of people applying for this visa right now, there are limited appointments with the immigration department. So we want to make sure that you have enough time to get all of that completed on that first visit so that you get in before that August 19th cutoff date. Once your application has been submitted, it typically takes about 4 to 6 months for them to process your application. Since there has been such an increase in this, it may take a little bit longer, but our legal team in Panama will contact you, let you know that it's ready, come back down to Panama, pick up your permanent residency card, and then, like I said, it's just that one day every 6 years to maintain it. And then after 5 years, the option to apply for citizenship if you're looking for that second passport. We definitely invite you to come down with us. We have a lot of great owners. It's always a great chance to meet other owners, meet the team, meet us, meet Jacobo and Luis, who are some of the folks who have been with us for over 20 years at this point. So we really do encourage you to come down. Even if you're not applying for residency, it's definitely a great opportunity to check out Panama and check out your trees. One of the things that we love about Panama is that it is a very geographically diverse country. You have the big cities like Panama City, feels kind of like you're in Miami, but you can go up north to Boquete and David, where you're more in the tropical highlands. It's a little bit cooler temperatures, kind of springtime all year round, very lush and green. There's also Pacific and Caribbean beaches. So you've got that beautiful blue water. And it definitely, I say there's something for everybody in Panama, unless you like the snow and ice, in which case Panama is probably not the choice for you.
Very true. It's a really beautiful country. And even if you haven't had the chance to go down, when you're down there, if you're looking to do residency over the next month and you will be spending the couple of weeks there, explore a little bit. You will have to spend time in Panama City to put your application in and go to meetings and whatnot. But on the weekends, you're free to explore and go check out Boquete and some of the beach areas. And I think you'll be impressed. All right, so let's jump over now to the Teak ownership opportunities at Grand Pacifica. This is in Nicaragua. And for those of you who are more of the freedom lovers, you really appreciate being able to make decisions for yourself, I would highly recommend looking at Nicaragua. Nicaragua took the Swedish approach when it came to handling COVID, and that was attractive for a lot of folks. So if you're somebody like that, I would recommend you take a look at Nicaragua. You are able to own Teak with us at the Grand Pacifica property. You need to invest $30,000 or more in land in order to qualify for their residency. So as you can see, it's quite different. Panama, it's $10,000 right now. In Nicaragua, it is also higher. It is $30,000. But if you're somebody who's looking at this from the generational wealth perspective, you're thinking about the diversification. Maybe you have a couple of parcels in each country, or maybe you're just looking at the investor residency in Nicaragua. You say, you know what, not interested in Panama. I'm interested in Nicaragua. You just have to invest $30,000 or more. So our first phase here sold out. It's for probably getting closer to 5 years at this point. And then over the last couple of years, we've continuously been planting more Teak at Grand Pacifica. As an organization, we've been in Nicaragua since the early 2000s. It's a place we feel very comfortable to do business. We've invested tens of millions of dollars into this country. if Nicaragua is new for you, or if you're somebody who's sitting on the backside of your computer saying, oh, I would never look at Nicaragua, so I've heard it's so dangerous, I'm going to give you a friendly note to send us an email, ask us for the Nicaragua 101 webinar so that we can send that to you. I think there are a lot of misconceptions about the country, which also for those savvy investors creates a lot of opportunity. But it's where I first started out in Central America, was there in 2010, 2012, 13. And it's a beautiful country that is severely underestimated, but we can tell you all we want, but of course it's up to you to make that decision, to do the homework, to learn more about the country. But at Gran Pacifica, we have newborn teak farms, and then we also have one-year-old teak farmland. Within the property, we have a large piece of property, about 2,500 acres, and it's a mixed-use property. We have development there. We also have land, about 250 acres, specifically allocated for agricultural and farm use, so teak specifically, and we continue to grow the teak farms there so that we have the laddered aged teak. We have a nursery on site. We've had one there for about 10, 15 years at this point, and that is where we harvest our teak saplings and then move those over to the farmland. Really beautiful location, just generally there within Nicaragua. But then you can see here, the trees are planted pretty strategically. They're planted in rows and then over the years thinned out so that the best trees are remaining on the parcels. All right, Ivan, why don't you give us a quick recap here of the farmlands that we have available in Nicaragua?
Sure thing. All right. So as you guys saw in Panama, we do have this very similar 0-year newborn parcels. These are at the same price of $6,880 with the exact same estimated payout there. But at Gran Pacifica, we do have another special one, which is the 1-year-old teak. You saw Rachel mention the 4-year-old parcel. Now we have the 1-year-old and the 0-year at Gran Pacifica. This one similarly is expected to produce the same returns for you, but it does have a slight price increase there, which is another thing that we do mention, is that, of course, the trees are growing in value. Everything is growing in value for you. So you do have that as well. Your land, your trees are appreciating as the time goes on there. And again, very, very similar benefits here, where you own the land and the trees. As I mentioned, this is not something where you just receive a share certificate. It is yours. You receive title to your land and to your trees. And I want to touch back on these laddered years of payment, because now we've incorporated another one, right? So we have 3 options with the 0-year parcels, either in Panama or Nicaragua. We have the one-year-old parcel, in Nicaragua, and then you of course have the 15-year-old parcel. So again, there's options there to ladder your payment if this is a sort of long-term play that you're making for generational wealth, for just a savvy investment that you're looking to make down the line, returns that you're looking to obtain down the line. Again, excellent choice here. And once again, the professional management team, as I mentioned, Jacobo and his team at Hail Forestal have actually gone in and trained our team at Gran Pacifica, provided them with the tools and the know-how to make sure that the farm is growing to the right specifications, meeting deadlines at the timelines, that the trees are growing beautifully and healthily. And so that is another benefit that you have right there. Now, the residency programs that you're seeing here, Rachel did mention that it is a little different than the Friendly Nations visa. Now, it does have some pros, some cons. One of them is that you can apply for at any age. The requirement is based solely on the investment in land. So you do need to invest a minimum of $30,000 in the country to qualify. Again, there's no age restriction there. You do receive a 5-year residency, which you'd have to be renewing. But you receive complete and total access. You are a permanent resident of that country. You can live there, you can work there. There's also other residency benefits that you would obtain just living in country. And we do have our Chief Operating Officer, Patrick Hebert. He lived in the country. Our CEO, Mike Cobb, lived in the country for several years. And they've alluded to the fact that you're treated just like a Nicaraguan once you're in country. Once you become a resident, there is no distinction whatsoever for you there. So if you're looking to find a new forever home, again, Panama and Nicaragua, you have those 2 options there, and you can obtain your residency through ownership of Teak there.
And then you leave a timeless legacy. I think this is probably one of the most exciting parts about it, is you can gift it to your kids or grandkids, or if you're not there yet, or maybe you don't have any kids, your niece or nephew or whomever is that special person in your life. And then you just let the trees continue to grow. Remember, it is that 25-year harvest cycle. So it'll see a few, each generation will have 2-3 harvests. And like we alluded to before, hopefully the money comes at a time that they really need it in their life. And we know college costs are going up. Life generally is getting more expensive. So wouldn't it be nice to just deliver this lump sum of money for them at each harvest and thinning and have them put it towards something that's important in their life? And, for me, I'm not married. I don't have any kids or certainly no grandkids, but I did do this for my family. And I don't know about all of you on the line here, but I'm most certainly the black sheep of the family. I moved to Central America right out of college and started investing in the international real estate market. And my family just couldn't wrap their head around why I would ever want to leave New York or, more generally the United States. And for me, I just saw a lot of opportunity in Central America. And, unfortunately, they didn't see that right out of the gate. So they just thought I was absolutely crazy for going to this part of the world. I guess we all are to some extent, but, I really did this for my family. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I was able to get my parents, that's them on the screen, down to Panama. Didn't quite tell them that we were going to be hosting a tour at that point. They thought they were going to be coming down and exploring the beaches and the city. I put them on the tour bus, and they came with our group of investors who were in the country to go look at the property. And about a year later, they did ultimately decide to become owners in the farm. That is them there hugging the trees. They're officially tree huggers, but they did see the value in that hard asset ownership. And for those of you who, maybe you're personally struggling to think about an overseas investment, or maybe you have family members who are just like, you are crazy, what are you doing? Show them this webinar, let them learn about the market. When people take the time to actually learn about the opportunity, I think it really opens their eyes to see that there's a lot more out there than what their financial advisor or their attorney says. So take the time to do your due diligence, have your friends and family explore the market with you, and who knows, maybe they'll become farm owners beside you. So just generally to recap your advantages, you leave that legacy and build that generational wealth stewardship. Just great to be thinking down the line in the future for future generations. In addition, you own a real tangible asset. I think a lot of us like to be able to see what it is we're investing. There are a lot of great concepts and ideas out there, but when you can actually see and touch and feel your investment, it creates this sense of security in a sense. For those folks from the United States, you can use your self-directed IRA in Nicaragua. For those of you who are into crypto, you're able to use your crypto to own in both Nicaragua and Panama. We accept Bitcoin, Litecoin, Monero, Ethereum, and USDT. So take a note of that. And then you can obtain residency if that is a primary consideration for you. So the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. If you'd like to join us for the field trips, just email us there, webinar@ecidevelopment.com. We'll send you the upcoming tours. We do have one in Panama. It's actually sold out at this point, but we'll keep you posted and know it, depending on what your interests are, to let you know what tour is coming up. So for those of you who like to see opportunities and compare them side by side, that's how I am. So I created this chart so you're able to see the different options that you have. You're able to see the different ages highlighted there in yellow. You're able to see the different costs there highlighted in yellow, the different annual fees and property tax and whatever else may be a consideration for you. Email us for the chart, webinar@ecidevelopment.com. We'll get that over to you so you're able to take a look at that. And then as Ivan mentioned, we do have specific business plans for each opportunities, which goes into greater depth about the projected return on investment numbers if you'd like to study how it is that we calculated that. All right, so just as a webinar special to say thank you for all of you who are here on the line with us. I mean, just really incredible attendance. I'm so glad to see so many of you looking to take action towards protecting yourself, getting involved in the agricultural industry. You'll see the opportunities there, $200 off. So here in Nicaragua at the Gran Pacifico, we have that 1-year-old farm. So when you include the titling fees, it's about $7,400. For those of you who are thinking more about the older teak, maybe you're thinking it's a little bit more challenging to think in that 25-year cycle, or maybe in a few years, 10, 15 years, you have some big things you want to pay off, then consider that teenage parcel. And that's about a little bit more than $18,000, including the titling fees. And then we have the newborn in both Nicaragua and Panama, and the titling ranges in each of the countries. But reach out to us. You'll see it there in the double asterisk there, what the titling fees are and the annual fees. Annual fees make sure that the the parcels are being cleaned regularly, that there's trimming that's happening to the branches because we want the trees to grow straight and not have Ys in them. A lot that goes into making sure the trees are perfect for harvest. So this is good for 7 days from today. So we'll give you until, next Wednesday. Obviously take the time tonight to go through this, but I'm just pulling up my calendar here. So that brings us to the 23rd. June 23rd is how long this special will be good for. So reach out to us if you have any specific questions. I see about 60 questions that have come in here throughout the presentation. So we're going to just start at the top. I'm going to guess some of you have very similar questions. So hopefully we will be able to get those answered for you. If we are not able to get to your questions, then reach out to us. You see the email address. Let me move that cursor. webinar@ecidevelopment.com, webinar@ecidevelopment.com, and we'll get you those answers. All right, so let's just start at the top here. Lee is saying, what are the entry requirements for those coming from overseas? You will need to get a negative COVID test within 48 hours of traveling. It can be rapid, it can be PCR, but it does need to be negative. William is asking, do my wife and I both receive residency through this offer? Yes, so you can be the primary applicant and your spouse can be the dependent. So I'm going to just go back here to one of the slides that Betsy reviewed for us. With the ownership of one parcel that's valued at $10,000 or more, so 2 newborns or one 15-year-old parcel, then you'll have one person who's the primary applicant, $4,680, and then the spouse can be the dependent. As Betsy mentioned, dependents can be children up to 18, up to 25 if they're enrolled in college, your spouse or your parents. So do bear that in mind, that there will be one primary applicant, and then from there will be dependents. There are a few requirements for the residency. You do need a clean background report. So if you have any nicks on there, it's going to be a bit challenging, I think, to get those expunged now before the deadline. But do note that you need a clean background report. In addition, you need to have a bank account in Panama. We help you with that. So you don't have to worry about that part, but we help you with getting the bank account. And then in the bank account, you need to have $5,000 for the primary applicant and then $2,000 for each dependent. So William, if you and your wife were going through residency, you would need to put $7,000 in the bank account. Your residency cost would be $4,680, and then your wife would be an additional $1,900. I did see some questions about dependents coming now. They do not need to come with you in person on this first one. They will physically need to go to Panama. But what we're seeing a lot of folks opting to do now is at least get that primary applicant down to Panama. And then then you're able to coordinate with all your dependents, because the dependents do need to physically come to the country as well. So do bear that in mind. I'm going to just jump to the next slide here. So they do need to come down for these trips. If you're adding your dependent later, the fee is a little bit higher for dependents because the attorney has to go through the entire process again. But just reach out to us about that, and we can certainly get you on board and get you the information you need. Rodney is saying, so for 15-year-old, then residency is possible. Yes, exactly. So all you need is one 15-year-old parcel, and then you will be able to apply for residency. I had a fellow prior to the webinar send me a question and asking if he did the payment schedule, if he was still able to apply for residency. The answer to that is no. You do need to have your parcel paid in full to be able to begin the residency process. So please bear that in mind. Dennis is asking about citizenship after residency. It is possible. It does take a few years. We actually haven't had anybody who's applied for residency go down the citizenship route, but you do know that it is there if you choose. Anonymous attendee, I don't know who this is. Give me your name so we can address it more specifically for you, but he's asking if you can use a credit card to purchase. The answer to that is yes, but do note there are credit card fees. It's about 5.5%. So just note that. Otherwise, we accept cryptocurrency. You can also do a check, or you can do a wire. So Sven is asking, the revenue after harvest, is it fixed or depending on the prices at the moment of harvest? Great question, Sven. So that is based on the prices at the moment of harvest. And for those of you who are wanting to see the numbers in depth, please request the business plan. But in the business plan, you'll see on page, in Panama specifically, pages 22 and 23 a breakdown of how we got to the numbers. And we're basing these projections on $15 a board foot for teak. So it's about a little bit more than $15 you'll see in the business plan. And then from there, I mean, it's great if numbers go up. We've been loving to see that lumber has increased in price. So, I would imagine it'd probably be even more at the time that we are selling them in the marketplace. But we didn't include any future prices in the projections. It just truly is based on what prices are today. Sven, also another great question is, what is the cost of replanting or for replanting? At today's price, it's $300. I can't guarantee to you what that number is going to be at the time of replanting, but you'll see in the paperwork that you will be required to pay, the actual cost. There's no profit in it for us or anything along those lines, but it really is just the cost to replant. And, that leads me to another point is, people are saying, well, how does hardwoods make money and where does hardwoods come in? And in order to align our goals with yours, our co-founders have been working in the region for over 25 years at this point, and they are very big fans of fees for success. So we wanted to align our goals with yours. And so hardwood gets paid at each thinning and each harvest. It's a percentage of the money that's coming in. So percentage of the income. So as Ivan mentioned, at age 12, 18, and 20, there are thinnings that happen. And then age 25, there's the big harvest. So you'll see in the business plan, there's a processing cost for us to process the logs to lumber. And there's also a maintenance or management fee for the processing of the logs to lumber. And so that comes out to about 35%. So the numbers that you see on the screen, the net projections of 94,000, those are net numbers, but it's a percentage that we take for maintaining and processing the logs to lumber and making sure that everything is going smoothly. So just a heads up there. And that, Brenda, I know goes kind of along the lines of what you were saying. Is it a fixed payout or is it based on the harvest yield? So it is based on the harvest, the board feet, and then also the price of board feet at that time. Lubomir is asking, can permanent residency be started immediately after the teak plantation purchase? Yes, it can. So just so everybody's aware of what the process looks like, if you just send us an email like right now, we'll get back to you in the next hour, not even with the reservation form. You complete that reservation form, send it back to us. Our team will have the paperwork for you ASAP as soon as possible to get you that documentation. You'll sign it, email it back to us. We'll countersign it, send it back to you for your records. You'll send the funds if it's crypto, wire, check. And then as soon as we receive the funds for the teak parcel, then we introduce you to the attorney. You work with the attorney to pay the residency fees and the titling fees. But as soon as we receive that payment from you, then we're able to get you in touch with the attorney. So I would certainly recommend that. We've had people who, in the morning, they'll send us a reservation form. By the afternoon, they've gotten the countersigned document back. They've sent the wire, sent us proof of the wire receipt. And then from there, they're in touch with the attorney. So it really just depends on how long you want it to take. And something else that I do want to mention here is the residency. For residency, you will need to get a background report. You will need to get reference letters. There's a list of things that you'll need to get. And really that's up to you and how long it'll take you to get it. We've had owners from 2013 who haven't applied for residency. They're working on it. But then we had owners who applied, last week and they just became owners with us. So it really is in your lap. I think for Canadians, it may be a little difficult at this point because you do need to get your background report stamped off by an authenticator or apostille, Betsy. I never remember which one it is, but
in Canada, it's authenticated. Everywhere else, it's apostille, unless you're not part of the Hague Convention, but that's a whole nother story.
All right, and we will get into those details. You're able to find all that in the information that the attorney sends you, but just a heads up there, in Canada, it'll be a little bit more difficult right now because that process is taking a little bit more time. All right, so I see Michael. Michael, I would recommend just reaching out to us for this chart so you can just see the breakdown per farm. I don't know specifically which one you're interested in, but we do have all of that information in our documentation. He's asking about maintenance, harvest, all the net yields. Yep, feel free to reach out to us and we'll send that over to you. Anonymous attendee saying deadline to get grandfathered in is August 5th. Yeah, you need to be in Panama by August 5th to be able to spend the 2 weeks there. Do note that you need to obviously have all your documents with you. So if you forgot a birth certificate or don't have those reference letters that you needed, it probably won't happen, but it's up to you just to be really diligent to make sure that you're getting everything that you need ahead of time to make it worth your while. Santiago saying, are people from Colombia able to apply for residency? Not for this residency in Panama, but Santiago, you are able to apply in Nicaragua. London is saying, is this in US dollars? Yes, all of the prices here are in US dollars. Anonymous telling how many years does it take from newborn to harvest? So Teak is a 25-year harvest cycle. We do have the payouts that happen at age 12, 18, and 20 with the thinnings, and then the final harvest at age 25. Eric is saying, can you sell the land to somebody else? Yep, you sure can. So you get title to it. It's yours. And after you get residency, if residency is your primary goal, then you can sell it. If residency is not your primary goal, then you're still able to sell it. All right, I'm seeing a lot of questions here. Some of them we've answered. What I'm going to recommend is if we have something specific, I know everybody has a different situation. I would recommend reaching out to us and letting us know. I'm seeing somebody here, total in dollars for family of 4. Lubomir, reach out to us. I think you have a property consultant that you're working with. So please make sure that you reach out to our team there and we'll be able to get those for you. But our team will be in touch. We do have a very comprehensive team of about 12 people, I think, right now. And so they're all there. They'll be there to reach out to you. And do also please check your spam. We do end up in spam with the number of emails that we get, the number of emails that we're sending out. So check your spam if you don't hear from us in a reasonable period. By the end of the day, I can tell you're going to receive this recording from us and you're going to receive a copy of the reservation form and the comparison chart. If for some reason you don't see it in your inbox in the next 2 to 3 hours, please check your spam. Because we do end up there. I cannot reiterate it enough. I've seen some of you message us before that you haven't heard from us, and I see the messages are just not being open because we're in spam. So I just want to make that very well known to check there. But what I will suggest, I see George saying, what is your email address? Email us there, webinar@ecidevelopment.com, so that you can get in touch with us directly. But otherwise, folks, be on the lookout for that reservation form, the comparison chart, and then also the recording. If you want to share it with friends, family, you're certainly able to do that. We would, of course, appreciate it. Then you have a fellow family member there, a friend there at the Teak farm with you. All right, Betsy, Ivan, any last words before we hop off here?
No, just thank you guys so much, and hope to see you guys down in Panama soon to get started on residency.
All righty. Perfect.
Likewise, thanks everyone for joining us. And I see some names in here that I'm already in communication with. We'll be in touch very soon. So very excited for everybody who's on this journey. Thank you so much for trusting us. And yeah, look forward to helping you guys meet your goals.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. And from those of you, I love that it's such an international bunch, guys. We love to grow our family. We're excited to meet other like-minded individuals and have the chance at some point to meet you in person. But in the meantime, we'll be emailing, phone, Zoom, all of that to get you sorted. And just have a really great day, morning, afternoon, wherever you're calling from. And once again, thank you. Bye, guys.